Hmm. Go. Okay, now I'm going to change that to gallery. Es Lara. Hello, Lara. Bienvenida de nuevo. Y Ana Monica. Y two of us. Oh, I know Carlos was able to change the name of one of these to Saladana. Maybe I can do that one right here. Okay. Wow. Welcome. Hmm. Interesting. We have a very masculine leaning group here today. Nice. That was true at the yoga today too. Maybe, I don't know, you'll know better why. Maybe all the ladies are traveling this weekend. So Robert asked me to use this higher box so that he couldn't see the TV, but you still see it. Maybe if I go like that, might be better. Okay. And can you on the internet, can you hear me okay? Okay, very good. Want to see how many guys we have?
There's a bit of a humming.
It might be the humming from the recuperador. Is it possible a machine or is it? There's the group. Could it be? Do you think it's an internet hum or is it from the machine?
I can't say that. I don't know.
Yeah, because there is a little. We have a what's called a recuperador, which also has a limpiador and Dora inside it. Cleans the air. So I think it's a good idea to have the air clean here, but then it makes noise. Once COVID is over, we'll just probably turn it on at the end of the groups.
Okay.
Por si acaso, no? To be safe rather than sorry. Okay, so thank you for coming. For those of you who were here last week, which I know some of you are not, Fernando, how are you? We have been talking about the second foundation of mindfulness, which is contemplation of feeling tone, or Vedana is the Pali word. And we've been using the teachings by Bhikkhu Analayo, a prominent scholar monk who lives in the United States. He's from Germany. And he uses body scans to do the various practices that he teaches. So we're going to start off with a couple three body scans. And then we will go to, this is for the meditation, and then we will go to a more samatha style, samadhi style, kind of calming style of meditation for a bit. And then in the final 10 minutes, this is also in every chapter, every teaching, every spoke of the wheel, Bhikkhu Analayo, he recommends then going to an open awareness. So we'll start off with a few body scans, being aware of feeling tone. What is pleasant? What is unpleasant? What is neutral? And don't get all wrapped up in, was that neutral? Was that, you just kind of notice. If something's really obvious, and you just keep on going. And then we'll be more in a calming, centering samadhi practice. And then the final 10 minutes, we're going to do an open awareness practice, which means you just let it all come in. And one little trick that I've remembered and have been using, one good way to kind of get there is if your eyes are closed, which usually our eyes are closed, look like at the back of your eyelids. And if you're concentrating, looking at the back of your eyelids, it gets you out of your thinking mind, and it seems to kind of bring you into kind of this open awareness state. You can also use sounds. Sounds are another really good way to do it. Or, of course, you can feel your body. But I find for some reason that when I look, there's just something about it that seems to kind of get me there quicker. Just me, and everybody, of course, is different. Okay. Any questions?
Yes, I didn't understand the first trick, the first tip about looking to what?
Yeah, so you're looking, but your eyes are closed, so you're not going to see anything, but still pretend
Mm-hmm.
as if you're looking. You can look.
Okay.
You can just look and then just close your eyes and keep on looking at the back of your eyelids.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any of the sentidos, any of the senses can bring us there.
Mm-hmm.
Tactile feeling, hearing, even taste, vision. And another little trick I like is sometimes in open awareness, I'll just say to myself, just be. Simply be. Nada más de ser. Simple ser. I don't know, does that work in Spanish? Can you say that? Simple ser. Yeah.
Simplemente ser.
Huh?
Simplemente ser.
Simplemente es un poco demasiado sílabas. You quiero más pithy. Pero simplemente ser, or just ser. Yeah, just kind of pretend to just be, don't do anything. No hagas nada. That's another way to kind of get into it. Remind yourself, don't, just be. Okay. So we're going to meditate for 30. Usually, I set it for 30, and then it usually ends up 31 or 32 minutes. One interesting thing about this sound is it can make a very good object for your awareness, for your attention. You can just listen. And it will get you there as well. And be aware, do you have a pleasant feeling tone with the sound, or maybe an unpleasant feeling tone? Is there me gusta or no me gusta? There we go. So when I arrived, I was kind of warm. No, not so warm. So let me put on my blanket. Is everybody okay? The temperature is okay? Okay. All right. So thank you for being so patient. I know you guys on Zoom are all expertos or expertas. Okay. Here we go. So the first thing we want to do is we want to arrive. No? We want to grow this there if I can. Let me see. Can't see it. We want to develop or establish, it's probably a better way to say it, establish an embodied presence, an embodied awareness, consciencia. So by that, we want to first find our body. Sometimes after a busy day or even first thing in the morning, we're all up in our head. We don't even realize that we have a body. So drop your attention, your awareness into the body, the physical form, the rupa. And just see what's there. Maybe you notice sensations in the body, little tickling, cosquilleos, hormigueos, or maybe not. Hopefully, there is sensation at the points of contact, where your body makes contact with the cushion or the chair or the bed, the floor. So we can establish a embodied presence by merely feeling these points of contact. And so now we'll do 3 body scans. And we're going to start at the head, and not to get too heady, no pun intended, we're going to look for or be aware of feeling tone, Vedana, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, agradable, desagradable, or neutral. But just you notice it briefly and you keep on going. And if it isn't obvious, no worries, just keep on going. So starting with the head, feeling the head, going to the neck, just feel the neck, the shoulders, the arms, the hands. Maybe there's some tingling in the hands. Is it pleasant, unpleasant, just neutral? Moving to the upper body, upper torso, lower torso, the hips, feeling the hips, the legs, the feet. And now working our way up the body. So starting with the feet, feeling the feet, noticing if there's anything pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Into the legs, the hips, the lower torso, upper torso, the hands, feeling the hands, the arms, the shoulders, the neck, and the head. Just feeling the head, the face, the jaw. And now for our final descent. Maybe noticing if it's different this time. Maybe waking the body up a little. Starting with the head, feeling the head. Agradable, desagradable, neutral. The neck. The shoulders. the hands, the upper torso, chest and upper back, the lower torso, the belly, the lumbar, the hips, the legs, the feet. This mindfulness of Vedana, feeling tone, can be a very effective way to create that embodied awareness. So now you can transition to whatever samatha practice you might have, maybe using the breath as an anchor. We could still continue to use the body as an anchor, the body sensations. You can also use sounds. With the breath, you can go big, the body breathing, or go narrow, maybe the breath just at the nostrils, whatever works for you. Wanting to create balance, not too tight, not too loose. You don't want to tense up, nor do you want to fall asleep. Or sometimes if we're too loose, the mind will more easily wander. Just find that balance and just rest in the awareness of your object. Just try to relax into it, feel it, be with it, and keep coming back to it when you notice you're thinking. Try not to use too much effort because it's meant to be a calming, centering practice, not a tension practice. If you have a practice of using labels, you can also use labels to track your experience, etiquetas, just like breathing in, breathing out, thinking, returning, breathing in, breathing out. if you are experiencing some stubborn thoughts, maybe some obsession or something you can't seem to let go of, try dropping back into the body and feeling the body, looking around in the body for any sensations that might be associated with that thinking. Maybe noticing if they're pleasant or unpleasant, and just feel them, watch them go, and see if the thinking doesn't calm down as well. So hopefully the mind is a little more settled. Maybe not. So let's transition to an open awareness, conciencia abierta, where we allow whatever our senses experience to be the object of our attention. So if it's sounds coming in, you just notice hearing. And then maybe sensation in the body will arise, and you notice that. The breath, thoughts will come, you notice there's thinking. And again, I find a neutral place for this practice to be looking at the backs of my eyelids as if I could see, just kind of bringing my attention to my eyes, even though my eyes are closed. And then noticing everything else, noticing that I can still hear, I can still feel. Just allow everything to come in. Bhikkhu Analayo believes that this is really what the Buddha intended us to practice most, an open mindfulness, open awareness, aware of conditions internally and externally, both. And then just relax, relax into the experience of noticing, of observing, of experiencing. Hmm. Good. So for these last couple moments of our formal practice, let's return the attention to the body, reground into the body, maybe noticing if there are any new, different sensations. You've been sitting for 30 minutes without moving, maybe there's some discomfort. You just notice it. And then gently bring your attention to your heart center, to your chest, feeling that area. And then thanking yourself for your practice. Today, I know here in Spain, it's a holiday weekend. So there are probably many things that you could have done, but here you are practicing. And then maybe reminding yourself that this is not a selfish practice, although it can seem like maybe it is because we do it alone. But in fact, it's probably the best way we can take care of ourselves so that we can be of service to others. And then taking this goodwill and spreading it out, just imagining that you can radiate out goodwill in all directions, metta, the Pali word for goodwill, benevolencia, spreading it out in all directions, picking up everybody here on this call and in Saladana, and then beyond. And then when you hear the sound of the bell, again, just noticing what arises, and is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? We lost somebody. Taxi. Thank you all very much. So interesting. There's so much that can be said and learned, taught in almost every little list of Buddhism and in every factor of a list. I mean, it just, there's volumes and volumes that we can know. And this is no exception. This, here I have it as contemplation of feeling or mindfulness of the feeling tone. There are a lot of reasons why this is a very good practice, and I tried to decide on a few so that I wouldn't overwhelm you guys and myself. So I figured I picked 4 kind of topics as it relates to feeling tone. And we'll see if we get to them all. I think what I'll start with is just a basic kind of fundamental belief in Buddhism. And mostly I talk about kind of Buddhism as taught in the Theravada tradition, which is in Southeast Asia, Sri Lanka, Thailand, places like that. That all conditioned experience has three characteristics. It's impermanent, it's always changing, right? That it's unsatisfying, or that there is no lasting satisfying nature to it. Dukkha is the Pali word for that one. And then the third one, which is sometimes, most of the time, the hardest to get our heads around, but that nothing has a self. Nothing has, what's a better way to put it? I didn't put that very well. Nothing has, for now I'll just say a self that is everlasting, that continues on. Things are empty of a self. And not only us, our bodies are empty of a self, our minds are empty of a self, but all conditioned things. This is the belief in Buddhism. When you get to the end of the path and you get to Nibbana, then that's the one and only non-conditioned state, is Nibbana. And in Nibbana, we're free from all the sufferings of the world, and that's why people practice Buddhism. So the thing with the impermanence is probably, for most people, it's probably the easiest to kind of understand. Things are always changing, right? Nothing is really constant. We have our bodies to be a good reminder of that, right? I mean, most of you are, well, at least half of you are quite young. But when you get to be my age, you notice, boy, things have really changed. This body. I did a yoga class here today. I used to do a lot of yoga. And we were doing the most basic postures, and I was breathing like I had just run a marathon. I was like, boy, am I out of shape. So the idea is, the cause of our suffering is that we cling, we hold on, we grasp, right? That's the cause of suffering. That's the second noble truth. And what is the point of holding on or grasping to something that's always changing? It's just going to change. And you're not going to be able to keep it the way you wanted it. And so the way these feeling tones can tie into this is we notice a pleasant feeling tone, and we want to hold on to it. Now, as you may have even noticed, just in that short meditation that we did any of those feeling tones stick around very long? Did any of those feelings last? Probably not, right? They just came and they went, and they're so fleeting. And so this particular practice, this mindfulness of feeling tone, Vedana, is a very good practice for the insight, which is what this is about, right? Vipassana, translated in English, is thought of as insight. In Spanish, we don't have such a good word for it, but you could sort of say intuition, but it's really, we're just saying insight. Although I was on this retreat, somebody used the word click. Click? I had a click. So I'm thinking we're doing click meditation, right? We're waiting for those clicks. I like that better than insight. So we can have a click of the impermanence of all things, one of the three characteristics of all things, which is fundamental to Buddhism, that we understand these three through this mindfulness of feeling tone, because it really is obvious things change. And you can even kind of have fun with it, where you don't have to like name it, think about it. Was I right? Was I not? You can just sort of feel them come and go. The sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, just kind of get into this flow. And you can almost do like an impermanence meditation, just a flow with just sensation, and just let the mind knows. Because this is another interesting thing. I mentioned this last week. But the neuroscientists have now figured out what the Buddha knew 2,600 years ago, that this is an automatic reaction of the brain for every stimulus that there is. The brain is constantly deciding pleasant, unpleasant, pleasant, unpleasant. Or another way to look at it, desirable, I want it. A threat, I want to get rid of it. It's constantly evaluating, just in a minute, a millionth of a second, boom, 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 constantly doing it. And we can't get away from it. We can't stop it. It's just natural. It's part of being human. Yeah, so maybe my thought around that is don't worry about it. You don't need to label it. First we label it first, and then you get used to it, and then you just know, you're just kind of aware, because the brain is aware, the body is aware. This is unpleasant, this is not, or it's just neutral. So that's one thing. It's a very effective method to have the click, to have the insight of the impermanence of all conditioned phenomena. Again, with the idea that once we really got that, I got it, okay, things are impermanent, we start to let go. We start to let things be, let things pass, get into the flow of what we have. Another thing I thought I would talk about is that in the Buddhist texts, the Vedanas are divided between worldly and unworldly. So it isn't just a list of 3 Vedanas. In a way, we have 6, because you have your worldly, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, and then you have your unworldly, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So without getting too, confusing, trying to figure them all out, basically you can think of it this way. The worldly ones have to do with sensual pleasure, right? It has to do with how we feel, in the body. And basically it just boils down to when there's pleasant feeling tone, when there's a sensual pleasure, pleasantness, we tend to want more, right? That feels good, I want it. And then the opposite of that is when it doesn't feel good, we don't want it, right? And this is pretty much kind of how we are. And then the neutral can be a little bit tricky. The brain does not like neutral at its normal kind of, is this good for me or bad for me? Good for me, bad for me. If it's kind of neutral, because we are worrying beings, our brain worries a lot. It's like, I need to find something that's either desirable or not. So it'll sit there for maybe just a moment of neutral, and then it'll find something that it doesn't like, or it'll find something that it likes. This is just what the brain does. And so on a worldly basis for neutral, Analayo gives the example of, and maybe this came from the Buddha or something, but let's say you're eating, you're now full, the food was really good, but you're now full, right? So do you take another bite? Maybe you don't. That would be an example of like a neutral feeling tone. And he points out that doesn't really lead to much insight. It's just kind of, he calls it still in the realm of ignorance, because you're not really learning much, you're just full. You don't want to eat any more of this food. So you don't. You're not adverse to the food because it tasted yummy, and yet you don't want more because you're full. So it's kind of neutral. Now on the unworldly, or maybe even otherworldly, this is where it gets kind of interesting, these feeling tones. So a lot of people believe that Buddhism is all about no desires at all, that we can have no desire at all, that desire is the root of our suffering. But that is not so. There are wholesome, saludable, I think is the Spanish word, maybe not saludable, there's a better word for wholesome, not sano. Huh? No, there's another word for like wholesome, like it's not healthy. Anyways, it might come to me. The saludable is kind of like healthy, right? So wholesome desires, For instance, the desire to be free from suffering, the desire to reach Nibbana. This is a wholesome desire. And so when we are aware of the fact that we're not quite there yet, we have not reached Nibbana yet, that might create a bit of an unpleasant feeling tone, right? Because we kind of want it. We're not there yet. Well, in the Buddhist point of view, that is okay. That is a healthy or wholesome, unpleasant feeling tone. Because the goal of reaching Nibbana is also wholesome. Now, on the pleasant side, now I've actually had an opportunity, the privilege of actually experiencing this and really being quite amazed. So I consider myself, just to be transparent, I have a very addicted personality, right? I get attached to things, and I even work and stuff, I can just get very addicted, right? If I like something, I like more. And I have been very attached to pleasant, sensual feeling tone in the body. Some people call it piti, that's a Pali word that can mean joy, alegria. But it's a physical one, not so much a mental one, but the tingling, the omegeos or whatever. And I just liked feeling them, right? But really what it was an attachment to the pleasant feeling tone. So with this open awareness practice, and even better, an awareness of awareness practice, I have managed to achieve at various times a place where my mind is still enough, quiet enough, and there's no bodily sensation. And what was the click for me on this was so much better than the pleasant feeling tone of the sensual nature. And in fact, I even had a bit of an aversion, the pleasant feeling tone would start to come, the sensual one, the worldly one would start to come, and I'm like, no, don't screw it up. I'm really happy where I'm at. Stay back. Now, for very advanced practitioners and people who have the ability to reach the jhanas, the levels of absorption, starting with the second and the third up to the eighth, the physical feelings go away, and they're just mental. You get to the fourth jhana, and I know this only from reading because I haven't been there, but you get to the fourth jhana, there's no physical sensation left. Now it's just mental, it's just consciousness. And in fact, that's considered the neutral version of the unworldly, is the fourth jhana and above, because it's neutral. There's no pleasant or unpleasant. But yet, it is infinitely more better than any pleasant feeling tone we can have sensually in the body. And some of you may have experienced it, so you don't need to take my word for it, or you can kind of take my word for it. When we can get the mind that still, that quiet, I'm not exactly sure metaphysically what happens, but the mental the mental sensation, the mental experience is so much nicer than anything corporal, anything that we experience through the body. And it's like nothing's happening. I mean, it's just still. It's quite interesting. Yeah, so maybe that's what I'll and the Buddha said, and I love this is the reason I was able to come to Buddhism. He said, he didn't say exactly like this, but more or less, don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself. Practice. And to get to that level, it takes like a retreat. It takes at least maybe 7 days of silence, or maybe if you're concentrated, you might be able to do it in a couple days. Get to that place where your mind is just in neutral. That's how I kind of look at it. It's just in neutral. It's not grasping onto anything. It's just sort of I often think of it as it's creating like almost like a force field of awareness. It's like this is my way I sort of see it. It's like the consciousness sort of creates this force field where the thoughts can't come in. They're outside of the force field, and then consciousness is just kind of here, and I can just stay in this bubble. And if you could stay in that bubble a while, a couple minutes or a minute or whatever, then you start to experience that stillness in the mind. And it's guarding the sense doors, including the sixth sense door, which is the mind, kind of keeping them más allá. Okay, let's see what time we've got here. So let's see, that was 2. Any questions? Yes, Jesus.
So what do you say we notice? Is it just like getting here because of the sound? You said that we start noticing like
the last thing I said?
Space of consciousness, yeah.
Yeah, so this is just the way I kind of imagine it, and everybody might have their own way of imagining it, but is that so instead of putting my consciousness or my awareness or my attention, let's say in the breath, or even in the body, I kind of like put it like right here. It's sort of like a bubble around me, right? So I'm just kind of feeling the area around me, kind of like this little bubble. And when I can kind of drop into that, and look, I probably have no business telling you how I meditate because I probably have no idea what I'm doing, but the results are pretty nice sometimes. So I'm creating this kind of bubble, and it kind of seems to hold the thoughts at bay. It holds the thoughts outside of the bubble. And really that, they say, oh, meditation is not about not thinking, and thoughts are part of the meditation. This is all true. And if you can get an extended period without thinking, that's where it's at. Not only that's when the sensations, the pleasant ones arise, but that's even when they stop arising and it's just a mental, oh God, this feels so good. I'm so tired of thinking all the time. It's like the poor brain is, and you're giving it a break. You're giving it a break. And you just put it in neutral for a while and it's like, oh, thank you. Let's just hang out here in neutral for a while. And then the other part of the brain are like, no, we got to worry. We have to plan. We have to remember that stupid thing I did yesterday. We got to think about our mother. There's all these other parts of the brain that are going to, but sometimes you can just get them all lined up like, oh, really good suggestion. My mentor, Suvacho, he was a 20-year monk in the Thai forest tradition. He lives over in England now. Because my brain wants to plan the rest of my life or whatever. He says, tell that part of your brain, I promise I will pick it up later. We will pick up this discussion later. And that has really worked for me. It's like, it'll come, gotta think about this. Okay, I'll pick it up later, I promise. And usually once or twice is all I need to kind of say, and it kind of says, okay. And this is an area where we can use thinking or thoughts did you find the word? Wholesome? Not saludable, I'm going to find it.
It's like sano.
It empieza con,
Sano.
Sano, sí, también, pero creo que hay otra. Pero, bueno, sano function. There are healthy, wholesome thinking, right? Like having a little talk with the brain. I'll think about that later, or we will think about it later, right? As if it's another little entity in there, which in a way it could be and is, Okay. Any other, did I answer your question? Yeah. And we play with it, Jesus. You kind of figure out where can you put your awareness that feels really good for you and safe, and you can kind of leave it there. And you might be one who likes it more in a narrow spot. For me, I need something bigger. If I get too narrow, I get tight, it doesn't work for me. I need to be more open. And everybody finds their balance. You find your spot. Could be the breath here, could be in the belly. The Mahasi method is in the belly. And we just practice and we learn. This is not I mean, I think there's immediate benefits to meditating. If you're a first timer, you're going to find immediate benefits, but this is really something that takes years to develop. It's like any task, right? Any talent, any skill. And the more you do it, the better you get. Just get better at it. Okay, let's see. What should I do? First, I should find my glasses. Had them here a second ago. There they are. How are you guys? How are you doing? Does it feel like I'm not talking to you this time? Oh, good. Okay. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to share screen. So this is from Analio, from his one of his. This guy writes a book. He writes a book like every 3 months or something. He's incredible. And he meditates like 5-6 hours a day, and he sleeps in a coffin. Okay, so this is just kind of going over the worldly types, pleasant feelings that are worldly type, or those related to sensuality. I'm just reading the parts I've highlighted. The principle behind this type of presentation is that worldly pleasant feelings are those that lead to an increase of sensual desire, right? That sensual or even sexual desire. Unworldly pleasant feelings instead lead to a decrease of sensual desire. This is what I experienced. And when I got into that consciousness of or awareness practice where the mind was just in neutral, I didn't want it was amazing. I did not want sensual, pleasant feeling tone. It's like that, me molesta. It's like, stay back. I want this neutral. And then he writes, the happiness of deep concentration, which doesn't apply to me, but the happiness of deep concentration does indeed diminish interest in sensuality. It's like there's this one teacher in California, Andrea Fella, she says, concentration is better than chocolate. The stuff that we can get when we're concentrated can be quite nice. Consequently, the joy of liberation is the supreme type of unworldly, pleasant feeling tone. Okay. The Satipatthana, this is what this is, the 4 foundations. He says, with all exercises, the task is to keep balanced. Impermanence, we talked about this one, right? Their impermanence nature makes feelings a convenient tool for the cultivation of deepening insight, clicks into impermanence. Comprehensive experience of impermanence, and you could just meditate on that flow. It can be quite nice. Cultivate the mind like the empty sky, allow feelings, wind, simply to pass by. Okay, here's open practice. So this is how we ended. And every one of his teachings, his practices ends with then going to an open practice. He really emphasizes that. Okay, so, I remembered, without looking at my notes. How much time do I got? Yikes! We're out of time. Okay, I'm going to say one real quick. Okay, one of the teachings, because this is pithy, one of the teachings that comes out of the teachings around Vedana, around the mindfulness of feeling tone, is called the teaching of the second dart, of the 2 darts. Okay, the 2 fletches, dos fletches. And this is one that we can use in our regular life. It's so easy to kind of remember. So the first flecha, the first dart, the first arrow is whatever our experience is, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. The second flecha is, do we want that sensation to be different than it is? This is how our brain will add on to the first dart. So especially if it's an unpleasant feeling tone, for instance, if it's pain, that's the first flecha. We all have pain. And then the second flecha, the second dart is, I don't like this pain. I want it to go away. Why won't it go away? This is the suffering that we add onto our experience. And as Analio pointed out, and I had never really thought of this, but more or less, if you look at your whole body, your whole life, and think about the experience in your body, most of the time it's painful. Pretty much a big part of our life is managing the pain in the body. And the older you get, the more there is. But even when we're young, we have a lot of pains in the body. It's like these bodies are not yet perfectly made so that they don't hurt, right? And so that's life. That's the first dart. Everybody's going to get it. The second dart is if we don't want that pain to be there. We want it to go away. We can't accept it. This is the second dart. The second dart is optional. The second dart we add. It's not a requirement. So this comes out of this teachings, and I've often mentioned it, and I'd like to remind myself of it, because it really can be a habit, where we just don't accept the way things are, and then we suffer as a result. Okay, that was 3 of the 4, but we're out of time, and Frank, I can't remember what the 4th one was. Anyways. Anyway, any questions? Okay, so we'll do a little.
Quick question, Jim.
Oh yeah, question from the Zoom crowd. Yes.
Sorry, yes.
Hello, Robert. Sorry
hi.
about that.
I think it was on page 130. There was one of the ones you highlighted was about liberation. Liberation being the worst type of
No,
I don't know, sensual.
no, it's not worst. It's okay.
Okay. What did it say?
Yeah, I'll bring it back real quick. Now, liberation is A-okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood that one.
Let's see if I can find it real quickly.
I think it was 130.
Oh, right. I'm on 131. Okay. Consequently, the joy of liberation is the supreme type
Great.
of unworldly pleasant feeling. The reason why maybe you might have thought it was a negative is because unworldly sounds kind of negative.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
it's just not worldly. No, it's the one. That
So
one's okay.
What sort of liberation?
Wanting to be liberated is A-okay.
What liberated from what?
Suffering.
Okay.
Right. That's why we're here.
Thanks for clarifying.
Okay. I know it's kind of weird, unworldly. It is sort of a weird word, but so yeah, let's do a little metta meditation. We're running a little bit behind what I sort of promised, but hopefully it's okay. So if anybody's new to metta, which I think everybody, you haven't done it. So with metta, this one we use phrases and we repeat them to ourselves. And the idea is we're trying to cultivate goodwill. And the way I usually do it, and people do it differently, but I'll start with me, us, and then we'll do 4 groups, ending with all beings. And yeah, so find yourself a comfortable posture. Drop back into the body again. Even this practice is supported by an embodied presence, especially in and around the heart center. I often put my hands there just to really feel that area. So I'm going to repeat or mention 4 phrases, and you can say them mentally to yourself. And the goal is to try to create some sensation, but that can take a long time. So we'll just start off with the phrases. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. So now let's, for our second group, let's do the we, nosotros. So those of us in Saladana, those of us on the Zoom call, just radiating out this goodwill, this metta to all of us here. May we be happy. May we be well. May we be safe. May we live with ease. And now let's try to find what we call a difficult person. So this might be somebody in your life who maybe hurt your feelings, did something or didn't do something that you were hoping for. Maybe there's a little resentment. Try not to pick a lifelong resentment, just something recent. So bring this person to mind if you can. And as if they're standing right in front of you, see if you can offer them metta. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And lastly, we'll do all beings in all directions, without exception. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. And finally, we will dedicate our practice today, the merit or fruit of our time together, the teachings, our Buddha nature, our Sangha, our community. All these gifts, we'll offer them up for the benefit of all beings. May all beings be happy and peaceful, healthy and strong, safe and protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings be free from war and violence and discrimination, racism, and coronavirus. And may all beings find their path, find their teachings that lead them to the cessation, the end of their suffering. May all beings be free. Thank you all very much for being here. Feels good to be back in this room, and I'm so glad some of you are hanging in there and joining us online. Just a couple final announcements. One is that here at Saladana, we do things maybe a little bit differently than some places where there are no charging. We don't charge for any sessions here at Saladana. We are experimenting with the idea of doing everything on the basis of generosity, which is what dana means in the Pali and Sanskrit language, is generosity. So we offer them freely. And you can also practice dana, generosity. You can help us clean up, although with COVID, I think it's best that everybody just touch their own thing and not touch other people's things. But you can also make a financial donation. Now, when I'm up here, you can just use the box that says Saladana, so it goes to the house. But if you're here, when other people are teaching, like Nacho and so forth, they have gastos, they have expenses. And so there's a bigger box for the teachers. Hopefully more will go in there because it's bigger. And so you can put something for the teacher. But for me, you can just put it, when I'm there, you put it in the smaller box. And I'm restarting Wednesday's Spanglish meditation, the basic Spanish class at 8 o'clock here. And so look for that. And hopefully we'll be adding a couple more presenciales as long as things continue to improve, which hopefully will continue to happen. And you can check the Saladana website for any updates and so forth. And yeah, that's, I think, it. Thank you all very much. Thank you guys. Touches my heart that you're there, 3 of you and 2 of me.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.